So eventually I got my place to do internship. During my time, you could do your internship for 6 months rather than a year. And
Really?
yes,
I
but then
wish that
it
would
was
get reviewed.
no, it won't be reviewed because it was a bad idea. Majority of us that did it in 6 months failed our assessment center because it's a lot of information to cram into 6 months. It's a lot.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot of information. So I think them stretching it to 1 year is a good idea because majority of us failed it. And I wouldn't advise it's I don't think it's ideal to cram that much information into 6 months. And I think the idea then was back then was because they feel you're already a pharmacist, they assume that you already know some of the things, which is why they felt 6 months was ideal. Where I think they eventually realized that the systems were different. What we prioritize where we are from is different from what they prioritize here. Say, for instance, where I come from, we prioritize more on the pharmacology and the clinical aspect of it. Here, yes, the clinical aspect is one thing, but they are big on communication here. Your
And
communication,
emotional
ex-
well-being, how you
yes,
convey information. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Here they see it as for you to be at the stage where you are. You know it. You have it in your head. What
yeah.
they want to know is how can you bring it from your head
And
to
pass
your
it on.
clients that they understand what they need to do. So communication is big for them. You can always refer information to any book here. You don't have to have it in your head. That's the
Yeah,
other thing is knowing where to find information. For them, it's more about how you communicate that information, whether from your head or from a literature here, to the customer that they understand what they need to do. So I think they eventually figured that out that, okay, I think there is a gap here. And they decided, okay, we think 1 year will be better for that transition to happen from prioritizing pharmacology to actually prioritizing communication and how you communicate here and how you communicate the information you want your patient to know. So, yeah. Then the internship itself um, was quite interesting. It was quite interesting. The calculation assessment was interesting. I think I had to do it 2 times because I think you have to score, I think 12 out of 12 or something. It was 11 out of 12 or something.
I had 11 out of 12 is the
Eh,
minimum. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So I think the first time I scored 10 out of 12.
Oh
Then I
my
did it
gosh.
second time. I think scored 12 out of 12. I think I scored the whole 12.
So just to interrupt you there, what would
Hmm.
you say about the calculation in internship and that of CAPS? Which one is harder?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I think the calculation and internship is a bit harder because of number one, the time frame.
Okay.
Number two, the intensity of it, because you've got two attempts. And knowing fully well the pressure is now more on you. With caps, you're fresh into it. That's the first exam you're doing. Here, there's an expectation. I've done caps, I've done the lower exam.
Yeah.
Right. At this point in time, the expectation is I should be at a certain level. So there's an extra pressure on you to get the calculation right. So, yes, in terms of what's on paper, it's a bit similar to caps, but the expectation is different. So there's an added pressure on it. So yeah, then you get to have your clinical scenario where you have your own patient and you do a review of a case review, which was that I think that's the bulkiest part of your internship, and I think that's towards the middle or the third quarter of your internship where you get to do a clinical scenario with the patient, and then you submit that, and then it gets reviewed. If you don't do it well, they send it back to you and you keep doing it until eventually it's good enough. I think your preceptor is important. The preceptor you have is extremely important. If you can, find an experienced preceptor. For me, I struggled. My preceptor was amazing. She was very lovely lady. But when it came towards the assessment center, because she hadn't gone through it, it was hard for her to really guide me through the assessment center exam. But throughout the course of my internship, she was absolutely amazing. She really taught me a lot. But my advice would be for new people coming in, get an experienced preceptor that knows the process. Because the assessment center is very tricky. It looks simple, but it's not simple. The principles are there's a principle to it, but it's easy to miss because there's a lot of anxiety going into it and it's time based. So you get so much tension going into the exam. But once you stick with the principle, you know what you need to do, and you're able to get put your anxiety in check, you will pass the assessment center. I struggled with it because I think the first few times I did it, I just did not understand. I mean, I felt after I did it, I thought I did well, but then I kept failing because my anxiety was there. I couldn't deal with it, but also I didn't really understand the principle behind the exam. So it was a bit of both. So it's important, and that's where your preceptor comes in. Your preceptor will be able to guide you as to how to approach those sort of exams. There are also groups out there of pharmacists that do conduct mock scenarios before the exam. It's important you locate the pharmaceutical society in your area. They tend to organize those scenarios. Locate them, get in touch with them. They do organize those scenarios
Is it a
so that
paid
you.
service?
No, it's not paid. It's free. It's free. It's free.
It's
They do
good.
it for free. They do it for free. So get to know the association in your region of the pharmaceutical society. They will close to the exam get pharmacists that will be assessors. They'll do a mock scenario, and then you go through it, and you will learn a lot from things like that. It's very important you go through that process as well. Um, During my time, there was an exam during your internship you do called the written exam. They've stopped that now. They stopped that a year after I did it. So for me, during my time, it was CAPS, lower exam, written exam, then assessment center. But now they don't do written exam anymore.
You
So
missed the calculation exam.
it's the written exam is different from the calculation
No,
exam.
no,
It's a
you
totally
missed it
different.
in your counting of the exam. CAPS, the
Okay.
legislative exam,
Mm,
the calculation exam,
yeah.
the
The
series of
the
assessment,
Yeah,
and
the calculation
final
exam, I wouldn't really call it an exam per se because it's part of your internship. It's just
exam.
a
Okay.
module under your internship. So I wouldn't categorize it on its own as an exam because it's something you just sit down in your where you work and they just time you and it's within I think about 40 minutes. You need to do like 10 or 12 questions. So it's not really like a standalone exam, but it is a form of assessment, so to speak.
So
Yeah.
it's your preceptor that will be the examiner.
Yes, she will sit there and observe, but he or she will not interact. There will be a timer as soon as you log in. There will be a timer that will time you to make sure. So if whether you finish or not, once the time is up, that's the end of the exam. Well, your preceptor will probably sit next to you to make sure you abide by the rules of it, which is important. Integrity is important in pharmacy practice. They need to make sure you are upholding, your integrity when you do the exam.
Yeah.
Um, what else do I need to add? Sometimes you may have a very good boss that will pay your internship fee.
That's the
Some
evolve program.
the Evolve program. During my time for overseas pharmacists was 6,400. Local was 4,600, I think. I'm not sure how much it is now.
Yeah.
But some preceptors will kindly pay it for you. As long as there's an agreement that, once you're done, you will stick around and help. Some will decide, hey, pay it yourself. Or some will say, hey, we paid for you, but we deduct it from your wages as you work. Everything now comes down to an arrangement with your boss, how that's going to be sorted. Yeah. My In terms of the fees for each exam, I think initial documentation for me was $690. The CAPS exam was 2,000, I think 230. Lower exam was 2,400. Written exam, hmm, written exam was, oh, I can't remember how much written exam was now. Then internship was 6,400. Assessment center um was paid with with your internship fee. But however, if you don't pass it and you need to resit, it was 2,670 during my time. I'm not sure how much it is now.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Shopper. We really appreciate your putting your story out there to inspire people, to make them learn and be better prepared if this is a journey they truly want to explore. So before we round off with this blog, I would like to give you few minutes to share. What is life after registration? How do you feel being the medicine at the registered pharmacy? How do you feel being the manager at the place where you work? And if you
It's
want to share a little bit of what the take home is, we wouldn't mind. But if you don't want to put it out there, we would respect that because you've done so much way more than we expected, sharing the undiluted, the raw truth, your whole journey with us. We really appreciate it. So over to
that's
you.
what
How do you feel, pharmacist shopper?
it feels surreal. I think it's become normal now because now that I've been a pharmacist for a few years now. But when I first qualified, it felt surreal. From just being being supervised or assisting the pharmacist to actually being the one signing off scripts, signing off blister packs. I still remember the first script I signed off. I cannot forget it. The script had ibuprofen and codeine. I still remember till today. And that's the thing. You always remember the first one. You always remember the first one. It's amazing. It's amazing. It makes you feel like it was worth it. Yes, the money aspect is one thing. Yes, the reward is there. Especially now that pharmacist salary is now better than what it was a year ago. I think the scarcity of pharmacists as well has created a sort of false inflation in terms of wages. But the reality is, whether it's false or not, time will tell. But I don't see the wages coming down anyway. I think it's gradually eking up to what it actually should be. Sadly, pharmacists' wages have been stagnant for close to a decade in New Zealand, whereas salary of doctors, GPs, and nurses have been going up. Pharmacists has just been stagnant. But the last 6 months to a year, it's been going up because there are fewer pharmacists, so employers tend to pay more to get your services. So now, a starting salary for a pharmacist now, in some places, could be as high as 80,000 to start with, depending on where you are. Yeah, where you are. So it's rewarding now, and you can go as high depending on where you work. You can go as high as 140, 150, 160 as you go up. So
40,
it's
150, 160 per annum.
yeah, if you are a pharmacist prescriber, for instance, pharmacist prescribers can attract up to 140, 150. Very possible, yes. If
That's
you are a clinical facilitator, which you've done your postgraduate, why not? You can earn over 100, 120, 130. Very possible. The atmosphere we are now, the market we are right now is suits the employee as a pharmacist. You can demand better now. It wasn't what you used to be a couple of years ago, which is good. I think we should be paid our dues because we've done the work. Pharmacy has been overlooked for so long. We've always just been seen as dispensers that all we do is count pills. But I think now people are starting to realize we do a whole lot more.
from the
There's a lot
pandemic.
of there's a lot of research now that's gone into incident reporting and how much interventions we do each day from scripts that are coming from GPs, where we get to have our clinical input, pick up these interventions, and correct the mistakes. So those things are becoming recognized now, and will be nice in the future for those things to actually reflect in our wages. So it is good, it is rewarding, it is very, very rewarding. My take home for everyone would be: never be afraid to dream big. Never be afraid to dream big. You will fail sometimes. Fail well. The reason is because when you fail well, you will learn how not to fail that way. And that's one step closer to success.
Yeah.
So dream big. Never be afraid to dream big. That will be my take home.
Thank you so much, Shope. I really appreciate this. Thank you for
That's fine.
everything. Yeah.